What's the line? It's just that simple? How easy is that? Hi, I'm Sohla, and today I'm going to show you how to make a giant almond croissant. Well, it's not exactly a croissant. We're not using croissant dough. It's going to be made with puff pastry. I'm going to show you first off the original recipe variation, which is an almond frangipane. Then we're going to make a hazelnut frangipane. We're even going to do a ham and cheese version. So you can really have fun with this. Anything you would want in a croissant, you can put in this puff pastry. And it's really fun and easy, and the best part is that it's giant. The traditional almond croissant was a way to use up old croissants like from the day before. So they would split them open, soak it in a rum syrup, and then fill it with frangipane, top it with more frangipane, and then it gets baked. And it's like a great way to like revive an old croissant. And when I thought about this, I was just lying in bed and I wanted a really big one. So that's where this came from. And what's great is since you're just baking one big sheet of puff pastry, you're just slicing open one sheet of puff pastry. It's a lot faster, and since it's not a big thick croissant, we don't need to do a rum syrup. Since it's not a leavened dough, it's just laminated, it's extra crunchy. So it's like a croissant, but like even more crunch and flake. So we're gonna start with puff pastry. The best way to thaw it is to put it in the fridge overnight. It'll thaw really nice and gently. But if you forgot, no big deal. Pop it on the counter and just like keep an eye on it. Flip it over every few minutes. The counter is gonna absorb the cold, and you just wanna keep going until it's flexible, but it still should be very cold. If your puff pastry gets so thawed that it's not cold anymore, you're gonna lose the lovely layers. So then pop it back in the fridge and come back to it. Do try and find an all butter puff pastry. It's gonna have a much better flavor. It's gonna poof a lot better. Because this is so simple, there's literally two components. It's just frangipane and puff pastry. You wanna try and get the best puff pastry. So this has been thawed in the fridge overnight, so you can see it opens up really easily. It's really flexible, and we're just gonna plop it on our sheet tray. So if you don't take the time to thaw it, what's gonna happen is when you unfold it, it's gonna just crack and break. Okay, so I'm gonna bake this at 425 for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna bump the oven down to 350 and bake it for another 20 to 30 minutes. And that seems like a long time, but puff pastry actually takes a really long time to fully bake through. We wanna make sure this is really nice and crispy, so that when we put our frangipane filling on the inside, it stays crispy. So while that bakes, I'm gonna mix together my frangipane. Super easy, we don't even need a mixer. So here I've got melted butter, sugar, and kosher salt. I'm gonna mix that up first, just so it comes together. We're not trying to like create air, it's not like a cookie dough. So it really doesn't matter how you mix it. I think you should just do whatever's easier for you. So if you wanna do this in a mixer, go for it. I'm gonna add my egg. Almond flour. Make sure you don't use almond meal, which has the skin still on it. It kind of makes the frangipane dry. A little vanilla extract, but if you have some rum, that's a really nice addition. And a little almond extract to bump up the almond flavor. So you're not trying to get any air or volume or anything. We just want to mix it up until it's combined. And then we are good to go. Okay, so puff pastry's out of the oven. It's cooled just enough that I can handle it. And I've got my frangipane, my almonds, and my salt, and we're gonna put it all together. You can have this prepped out like a couple days before if you're gonna do this for guests in the morning. So we're gonna split this in half. I like to kind of use the rim on the sheet tray to help me, barely holding it with my other hand, because I don't wanna poke through. And see how my knife is staying level with the rimmed baking sheet. It's kind of like one of those cake slicing guides. And we did it, wow. We made it all the way around. Lift off, and now we're gonna spread 2/3 of our frangipane here. Nice, thin, even layer. I like to do little dollops all around. Just makes it a little easier to spread it. And I know it doesn't look like much, but I think it's the perfect amount. I think it's just like the perfect amount of sweetness for breakfast. Since the edges are raised, the frangipane's gonna wanna like pool in the middle, so make sure you spread it all the way up. So the frangipane has the texture of halwa. Like there's this semolina halwa that we would have for breakfast growing up, and we would have it with parathas. So it's like kind of the same vibe. You get like the flaky, buttery pastry with this like sweet, fudgy thing. So it really tastes like that to me. Cool. Now we're gonna top it off. Boop. And I'm gonna spread the remaining little bit. It's gonna be just a thin layer on top. The frangipane on top gets more like crunchy and crackly, while the stuff in the middle stays fudgy. So you get two textures out of the same thing, which is pretty cool. And finish it with a little bit of flaky salt. And this is gonna bake 350 for about 20 minutes. It's gonna get really nice and golden on top. Okay, now I'm gonna show you a couple more variations. It's just that easy. Wait.
How easy is that?
How easy is that? So while the almond croissant is baking, I'm gonna show you a couple variations. Let's make a chocolate hazelnut croissant. These are raw hazelnuts along with the sugar and salt, and we're gonna grind this up until it's really fine. Okay, so that's really nice and fine. We've pretty much just made a hazelnut flour right in there. And now I'm gonna add egg, butter, and vanilla. So I'm leaving out the almond extract because it's gonna kind of take away from the hazelnut flavor. But this would be really good if you had a little, what's that hazelnut liqueur? Frangelico would be really nice in here. Do you have some?
Is there anything else that could be sold?
How about a little whiskey? Yeah, let's do a little whiskey. Why the hell not? Yeah, thank you. Whiskey's so good with hazelnut and chocolate. Okay, so I'm gonna add just a tablespoon. Don't be tempted to add more. I tested it with 2 tablespoons and it just gets really weird. Okay, now we're gonna fill our puff pastry exactly the same way. Okay, and then I have some chopped chocolate I'm gonna sprinkle on. Success. Okay, top goes back on. I'm gonna spread on the remaining frangipane, add it on top in dollops. I'm gonna finish it with some chopped hazelnuts and a little bit of flaky salt. And we're gonna bake this at 350 for about 20 minutes. It's gonna get really nice and golden and crunchy. I'm gonna show you ham and cheese. So same thing, I'm gonna split open my puff pastry. Alrighty, so now we're gonna do a little layer of Dijon mustard. Just like with the frangipane, you wanna keep it really thin and make sure you go all the way to the edge so that every bite tastes good. Since there are a lot of like nooks and crannies, if you wanna be fancy, you could do this with a pastry brush or even like the back of a spoon or your fingers, whatever. It's just so simple.
How easy is
How
that?
easy is that? Sorry, I'm never gonna get the line right. So now I'm gonna do a layer of ham. Use whatever ham you can find, thinly sliced. My biggest pet peeve with sandwiches is that people don't go to the edge. You want every bit to taste good. This is some shredded Gruyere, but you could use Emmentaler or any kind of like Swiss cheese vibe. Nice thin layer. And we're gonna put a little bit of cheese on top and boom. So this is gonna bake in the oven until it gets really nice, golden brown and melty. How much fun you can have with puff pastry. Huh? Almond croissant, chocolate hazelnut croissant, and cheese croissant. Cut this up to suit as many folks you have over. I think 8 is a nice portion. Everyone gets like a generous piece. Or I don't know, eat the whole thing, you know? I'm not here to judge you. Time to dig in? Okay, almond is the one I'm most excited for because it's the classic. And check out how crunchy this bottom is. The pastry is still really nice and crisp. You get a nice little fudgy layer of the frangipane, crispy nuts on top, and I love how messy and fun it is. A little savory interlude. That thin layer of mustard really cuts through all the richness of the puff pastry. You can taste the cheese. The ham didn't get dry. It's still nice and moist and flavorful and salty. This one's really fun. Now let's try our chocolate hazelnut one. This looks very rich. Still nice, perfectly crisp. I really like that little bit of bourbon. It really cuts through all the richness. This is like a surprise. I was mostly excited for almond, but I think I like the variations even more. I hope you guys give this a try and also like get creative and try your own versions because like I think I surprised myself and these two are now my favorites somehow. I hope you guys try it.